welcome to the Real Estate Pro Radio Show. This is your host, Amber Arms, and we have with us today Victor Velez from Exton, PA. All right. So, Victor, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Victor the person?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Okay, who is Victor the person? Pretty simple guy. I'm a married man. I'm a husband, father, and actually a grandfather. I have two grandchildren, two children. I'm excited about life. Thank you. I'm excited about life. I think one of the things that has come across, no matter what industry I've been in, is always trying to be able to give something back. You were discussing a little bit ago, Amber, in terms of what's exciting, what's good about life. And I think one of the things for me is being able to meet new people, be able to be impactful, and to be able to serve. And I've been able to do that. I'm grateful God has given me the opportunity to do that among multiple industries over the years.
Wonderful, wonderful. And it sounds like you got your life busy, you got the grandkids on the way and all that. What would you say you like to do on like a daily basis? Do you have any hobbies that you get involved in, things that you like to do on your free time?
Well, one of the things that I've enjoyed, I got bitten by the acting bug in high school, and it never went away. Sometimes you're never cured from it. You may end up doing something else, but you're never cured from it. And so one of the things that I also enjoy, not as well as being a realtor, is also being an actor. So I've been an actor on stage and screen for roughly a little over 30 years now, I guess. So I've been doing that. So whenever I have an opportunity to be able to flex that creative muscle, I do take advantage of it. Just recently, a few months ago, I was in a musical production called Annie. And we played that in Chester County, a place called Salt Theater, and I played Daddy Warbucks. That was a challenge for me, and I loved it. I took it on, and that was very exciting for me. So I got to scratch that creative itch. Love being outside. I think part of I do go to the office from time to time, but I do enjoy being outside. I enjoy the opportunity. I know COVID has changed things a lot, quite frankly, in terms of meeting people, but just being out and about, parks, beaches, love that. And, love board games with the family and things along those lines. Going out to dinner is fun for me. Theater is fun for me. Actually seeing live theater is not just performing in it, but actually seeing live theater is also a really good time for me. And just, I love what I do.
It sounds like you have a very colorful life, and you're very involved with the creative sphere. As someone who also really enjoys, seeing, creativity at its finest, music, art, theater, movies, just the whole gambit. I can totally understand how that can draw somebody in, it definitely brings a new level of like color and life to things, I would say.
I think so. Yeah, I think it makes. I could tell you that the acting is allowed me, I think, to be a better real estate agent. Quite frankly, it has an opportunity for me to. I have no fear in terms of being in front of someone, and that has always been able to be of a net benefit for me. And it's just the opportunity again to be able to serve. It sounds kind of, when I'm on stage, I'm serving the audience. I'm giving them something that they could be able to enjoy and walk away feeling entertained. If it's on the screen, hopefully it's the exact same thing. And when I'm doing what I do in the world of real estate, my philosophy is I'm making a difference one home at a time. So that's something I thoroughly enjoyed. So God has given me the opportunity to do two things that I really love and enjoy, and that's acting and real estate. And not a lot of people could say that, but I'm grateful that I have that opportunity.
Yeah, I would say that that's a pretty unique combination. Most people can't say that they got both of those, so definitely 100%, very, very special thing that you got blessed with for sure.
Thank you.
And so you've said that you've been involved with real estate for a while. How did you get started in the industry?
So Initially, I was an insurance agent with a company called Aflac, and that was business to business sales with supplemental health benefits. And I would work with employers to help their employees with their health benefits, and I did that successfully for quite a bit of time. But then the Affordable Care Act came in several years ago, about 12, 13, 14, and the premiums started to go up. So we were going through a recession at that time, and so I wasn't able to do that business as much because premiums went up and because there wasn't a lot of new hires. So I had a friend in the business, a guy by the name of Chris, brought me on board, and he said, you know what, why don't you have that skill set for sales, whatever that is, and said, why don't you turn that into real estate? So I gave it a shot, and I said, I've always loved real estate. I love the opportunity, the idea of it. I'm a homeowner. And I took that skill set from dealing with individuals, and the product kind of changed, but I noticed that the skill set was about the same. Little did I realize that I ended up doing something that I felt like I was always meant to do. I remember when I got into real estate in 2014, people, when I made that transition, people going, oh, you're going to be great at that. Oh, I saw that before. I saw that coming. And I said to myself, I should have done this years ago. So I ended up coming into something a little bit later in life that it just thoroughly enjoyed. And turns out I'm not too bad at it either.
That's amazing. And it's funny that you mentioned that. I don't get to do recordings all day long for the most part. It's not my main hustle, so to speak, but it's funny because I'm also an insurance agent. That you mentioned that. I'm mostly in the personal and casualty sphere, so we're in a little bit different industries, but they kind of function about the same. So it's kind of interesting. You mentioned that you came from that industry. It feels like you went from insurance to real estate. I went from real estate to insurance. So it's kind of interesting how that happens. Isn't
it funny? But did you notice how some of that skill set really there's a crossover with that, because you're still there to be able to help someone in their time of need. Now, one might be, one might be an intangible like insurance, and one is a little bit more tangible like a house. But someone is coming to you for a need, and you could really make a difference in their lives. And so I really did like the crossover. I felt a lot of times that insurance agents and real estate agents kind of get each other, almost both sides of the same coin, or two sides of the same coin, I should say.
Yeah, well, there's a big difference that people make between the two when they, compare them. But there's a lot of similarities between them, and I feel like that we're a lot closer than people realize. We're both kind of these, people that guide people, especially people when they're going into their first house or they're getting insurance for the first time and they're maybe not as comfortable with knowing how that, industry functions. Having a good experienced agent or realtor on hand really can support them in a really good way. We're kind of like mentors in a way.
I do agree. People come to us because there's information or there's something missing in their life that they really do need someone to help them with. And insurance certainly is one of those things that you don't really realize how much you need it until it actually comes upon you. Whether it's health insurance, life insurance, whatever that is, it's actually very important. Who's the first person you call when you get into, or maybe one of the first few calls you make if you get into a minor fender bender? It's your car insurance company, right? So it's one of those things that people do need, and you really want to have someone that you can trust to be able to fulfill that need. And I really do like that little bit of a crossover where people come to you because they trust you to be able to take care of them for something that they need in their lives. And it's one of the big bases that I was a successful real estate agent. I'm a successful real estate agent, but also may be a successful insurance agent because people trusted me.
100%. And so, the market has been changing a lot. You mentioned, with COVID, all of the differences that have happened on a personal sphere. How would you think things have changed, from the real estate state of things, even just comparing, 2021 to 2022, how are things changing in the market?
Well, it's a great question. So when I talk to my clients now, whether I'm on the buy side of things or on the sell side of things, I would say, look, let's talk about how things happened before COVID, and let's talk about how things happened since COVID. And COVID has changed a lot of industries, and it's certainly made its impact in the world of real estate. It's kind of amazing that I had my best years during the pandemic. There was bottled up demand, and that translated to a flurry of activity. So you ask, what's the difference between 21 and 22? Well, I would say this. In 20, and you probably, I'm sure you're aware of this, that we had the most oppressive real estate laws in the nation. We were not, when we went into that first lockdown back in March of 20, we were not allowed to hang a sign. We were not allowed to put a lockbox on. We couldn't do anything live for about 2.5 months. And then when that was restricted or lifted, and we got into the green zone here in Pennsylvania, the floodgates opened up. And all of a sudden, that pent-up demand, that dining room that no one ever uses except for maybe a holiday like a Thanksgiving or Christmas or something along those lines, that dining room now became the classroom. That dining room now became the home office. So people started to realize, wait a minute, maybe I need a bigger space. Or maybe we need a little bit more elbow room. Maybe I don't necessarily want to be living next door and hear my neighbor coughing. So you had an influx of people coming from the urban environments, the cities, into the western suburbs. And I saw a whole lot of that. I saw a whole lot of people wanting more space, more elbow room, more space for either a home office or for their kids to do work in. And now we're going on 2 years into this, and there's still some of that. One of the biggest things that I've seen is the home buyer. So let me tell you what I mean by that. On the buying side of things, my biggest client base are millennials and Generation Zs. So basically 25 to 35-year-olds. They're the first-time home buyers. Sometimes it's a step-up buyer, but typically they're the first-time home buyer. Prior to COVID, most first-time home buyers bought that starter home that they were going to live in for about maybe, 5 to 8 years, maybe 10 years max. And then they'll step up into the bigger home that they were going to live in for the next 20 to 30. That hasn't been the case in my experience. What I'm seeing right now is that millennial individual, whether it's a couple or it's an individual, the 20 to 30-somethings are now buying that 20 and 30-year home initially. So they're not buying the starter home. They're buying the home that they're planning on growing their family in. And so that has changed the paradigm shift in terms of looking for a smaller home into looking for something that's just a little bit larger. And that has been a shift that I've seen a lot in the last, year and a half to 2 years. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Do you think that's going to change even into maybe 2023, you think?
Well, there's, the prevailing wisdom, and, you can go all over the place with this, Amber. So right now, we've already seen in the last week or so, rates go up. We were having a meeting in my office, and we're talking to our lender, and we're probably going to be seeing interest rates rise this year in 2022, perhaps into 2023. I've heard that the Fed may raise their rates as many as 4 times. Now, does that mean that the mortgage rates are going to rise with that? Not necessarily. But if there's an uptick in the rate and the mortgage rate, that will slow down, most likely will slow down the buying. I still do feel that it's going to be a seller's market for at least another year or so, because the demand for buying, the demand for homes is still high and the supply is still very low. But what I have seen from 21 into 22, even from the beginning of 21 to the end of 21, is more of a stabilization of the market. So I can recall when we were lifted and the ban was lifted and people started to go crazy third quarter of 20 into perhaps the second quarter of 21, where you would put a home up. Let's say in Chester County, a home would go up in the Downingtown or Westchester area of Chester Springs, for example, which is a little bit of my marketplace. You'd put up a nice home. That home would have 15-minute showings from 9 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. 15 minutes. So you had people, almost a revolving door, where you had people coming in and making a $500,000 decision in 15 minutes. And then they would do that, and the home would be sold. They'd be taking 20, 30 offers they'd be taking in on day one. Now, what I've seen, with a few exceptions, of course, is I've seen some of the normalization. They were, back then they were waiving all inspections. They were waiving all kinds of contingencies. People were buying things sight unseen. They would come in just off the videos and the pictures that they would find in the MLS or on Zillow, one of these syndicated sites, or Trulia. You had agents coming in with their phones and doing a Zoom tour. I know I did that personally myself for a client, and people were buying homes just like that. I've seen that slow down a bit. So what I've seen right now is homes are still selling relatively quickly. You may not necessarily get 40 offers. You're not necessarily getting 15-minute showings now where it's a revolving door. There have been some exceptions to that. There's still homes that are still quite popular and selling quickly, and the inventory is still low. But I've seen a little bit of a stabilization. I've seen people asking for inspections. They may put a deductible on the inspections, but I've seen people asking for inspections. I've seen people, instead of waiving their appraisal contingency, they might put a certain gap on that and pay a certain dollar amount toward that. So that wasn't happening toward the latter part of 20 and then the beginning of 21. I've started to see that toward the second half of 21. So that's one of the, and I believe I will still continue to see that into 22, perhaps 23. But markets always seek some form of equilibrium. You can't have a seller's market for too long. You can't have a buyer's market for too long. It always wants to seek some kind of balance. We've been in the selling side of things now for quite a while. How long it's going to last, I can't necessarily predict that, but I think it could be going on for another 1 to 2 years. The things that I see in PAR, the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors, NAR, the National Association of Realtors, we're still looking at a housing shortage nationally, and you're still having the pent-up demand. So I do believe that we still will have more buyers than sellers. Problem is, one of the big reasons for that is a seller can sell their home, but where are they going? And that's one of the biggest things that I've come across, is that people say, well, I can list my home and I can make good money on it, but where am I going to go? There's no inventory to go.
Yeah, I've heard that mirrored by a couple of realtors that I've talked to now, that some of the sellers have been really reluctant to consider selling just because they don't know if they're going to be able to buy one. They might have to go stay with friends or family, and some people who have a family of their own with kids, they can't exactly go hole up in a hotel for a couple weeks while they find something that they can actually have a committed offer on. So it's definitely a serious concern that some people are facing when they're deciding whether or not they're going to put their house up.
Absolutely.
And it's definitely contributing to it.
Yes, we saw there was something was called a post-settlement possession addendum, where we used to see people stay for maybe a week or two after settlement, where the seller would stay into the home after settlement for maybe a couple of weeks. That happened pre-COVID. Now, post-COVID, I've had people stay, the seller staying in the home 3, 6, I've heard as much as 9 months after selling their home. That was unheard of prior to COVID. And part of that is simply because there is not enough inventory. When you have 3 times the amount of buyers than you do sellers, you have to come up with creative ways to be able to live. Where am I going to go? Am I going to find a place to rent? And I've seen that. I have rental clients right now that are looking because they've sold their home and now they need a place to move into while their home is being built. And a lot of times the home is not even being built in this state. It might be even built in another state. But the supply shortage, which we've all seen, has also delayed new construction homes. So there is a domino effect when it comes to the lack of inventory, where a seller will sell their home, but they have to decide where they're going. And the other thing is, the money that they feel that they can make on their home on the sell side could be eaten up on the buy side with a multiple offer situation. And some people are a little hesitant to do that.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. It's very much a situation where a lot of things are not guaranteed and a lot of things are super delayed. Like you were mentioning with the new construction, people are putting up houses as fast as they can, but it's still, you're talking 9 months minimum for most houses to be able to get through that construction process typically. So, and then you end up with, a waiting list essentially because there's so many people trying to buy them. I think there was a waiting list before COVID started, wasn't there?
There was. So prior to COVID, new construction homes would sell, but nowhere near to the point of what we see now. I've had situations like I put some people into new construction in 2020 and even toward the latter part of 19 before COVID hit. And you had some people going, okay, we had been a little bit on the seller's side for a couple of years now. Even just prior to COVID, inventory was lower than this is the supply demand. The supply simply didn't outpace the demand. But that really kicked on steroids when COVID hit. So now what you're talking about on the construction side, so for example, you have, if you're buying a luxury construction, typically the appliance package is going to tend to be a little bit on a higher tier side. But what's been happening because of supply shortages, you're putting in lower tiered appliances, refrigerators, stoves, ovens, and so on, just to get in the house. And then months later, could be 3, 6, 9 months later, they're swapping out those lower tiered appliances when the new appliances become available. That's been going on. You've been having situations in the new construction where when you bought a property in a new development, and I've done this, the price that you came on board was the price that you pay, but the developers are also building in possible increases in the supplies. So you may not the price that you came in at may not necessarily be the landed price 6, 9 months from now, because there could have been a supply shortage where everything got up, or what you ordered in the design center is no longer available and you have to make a change. These are the things that were really not happening since COVID. And COVID now has kind of changed the landscape on how to be able to buy a home, what to look at, and even on the new construction side of things.
This episode is brought to you by We Insure Center of Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. With access to over 200 carriers, We Insure is ready to service all of your insurance needs for home, auto, business, life, and more. Simply call 484-207-6640. Again, that's 484-207-6640, or visit WeInsureCenter.com. Get your free quote today. Absolutely. And, we've talked a little bit about how the market has been going, and, there's so many agents in even just this area of, southeastern Pennsylvania, already. What would you say makes a really good real estate agent stand apart? There's a lot of people looking for their first agent to interact with. What should they be looking for?
That's a great question. One of the things that I have noticed is that I think now more than ever, if you want to navigate the choppy waters of real estate, whether you're buying or selling, you really need to be partnered with a good realtor. And there are a lot of good realtors out there. To be frank, I hate saying this, there are also a lot that are not that great. I've unfortunately come across a few in my time. I've come across some great agents, and I've come across some that are not so great. I think one of the things that has worked for me, and I've noticed for the agents that I have had a lot of success with, are agents that really go out for their client. So I think one of the biggest things for me is, first of all, I tell the truth. Okay, I learned a long time ago, when you tell the truth, you never have to worry about your story. Okay, so I tell my clients on the buyer sell side, I'm going to tell you the truth. Whether you maybe want to hear it or not, you'll always know where you stand. I think people really appreciate that. I think one of the other things that people, in my experience, really gravitate toward is how well they feel they're being represented. Are you returning phone calls? Are you making sure that they're informed with everything that needs to happen? Most people, whether you're buying or selling, don't want to be caught unaware or being surprised by a particular situation. I think your better agents are really good at managing the expectations up front and early, what to expect in the buying process, what to expect in the selling process. Not that you can cover absolutely every contingency, but if you prepare your clients well in advance, I think you would find that the experience overall tends to be better, and the better agents tend to be really good with that. I also find that especially among my younger clientele, I was mentioning a little bit before that most of my buyers, I have some older buyers too, I'm not saying that I don't, but my first-time home buyers, the 25 to 35-year-olds, really do appreciate the partnership, really do appreciate communication. So where an older client may appreciate more phone calls or maybe even emails, the younger client in the younger generation, texting is very important to them. But making sure that there's a constant line of communication, that you're there to answer the questions, to know that a good agent is going to be their advocate, their champion. It's going to be out there to do what they need to do to get the job done. So an agent that will work their tail off to get to the settlement table, to get to the finish line, is a successful agent in my view. And the best agents that I've worked with across the aisle have been agents that I know really care about their clients. And also, it need not be combative. I realized a long time ago, you know what? We all want the same thing. The seller wants to be able to sell that house, to be able to move on to the next chapter of their lives with the biggest check that the market will bear. The buyer wants to be able to get that home. And nowadays, they want to be able to probably win against a competitive bid, and they want keys to that house. And both agents, guess what? None of us get paid unless we get to the settlement table. So work with the other agent. Be cooperative. That's why they call it the cooperating agent. The agent that is actually out there for the best interest of their client, but also making sure we get to the settlement table, I think is the better agent. And that's been my experience. I do what I can, and my clients know this from the very beginning, that when you partner with me, I'm there from the very beginning, and I'm holding your hand right on through to the settlement table and beyond, because I'm in this for long-term relationships. I'm not in this for just a transaction. My clients often become my friends, and I value the time. And as a matter of fact, we all joke that we start to get a little depressed when the deal is over because we're not communicating as often as we were. You know, when you're in a transaction, we're talking 2, 3, 4 times a week, or much more often. It's a lot less than that once the sale is done, and we all feel this sense of almost a sense of loss, like, wow, we're not talking as often as we do. I still keep in my clients' lives, and they're in mine, and I'm blessed by every single one of them, and I'm thankful for every single one of them. Most of my business, probably about 95% of my business, is via recommendation. These are people that enjoyed the experience with me and have asked a family and passed along my name to a family member, a friend, or a coworker, or a colleague. And that's business that I love. It's business that I have to earn. No one's going to recommend you if you do a terrible job. But I also just enjoy what I do. When I hand keys to a first-time home buyer, that young couple that's going to be starting their lives, and you hand them keys to that house, it's one of the best feelings ever, because I know that every holiday celebration, every anniversary, every birthday, if the family expands and grows, I'm going to get a piece of that. And long after I'm gone, my name is attached to that house. That house could be with that couple for years, decades, generations. I have no idea. But no matter what, I played a part in that. I made a difference in that couple's life. And I helped them when they needed it. And that, for me, is my slice of immortality, my legacy. That's making a difference one home at a time.
That's a really beautiful way of looking at it. You know, I feel like you have a very positive and optimistic viewpoint on the industry in general. It's just really beautiful to see that. You know, what would you say is a common misconception with the real estate market? You know, a lot of people who aren't directly involved with it, it's kind of this enigma that comes up on HGTV. You know, what do you think people really misconceive about it?
It's funny that you said the HDTV. So it's true. I think my industry is probably one of the few industries that people feel they can do it better than I can. Just because they bought a house 20 years ago, or they have a friend that bought a house, or they watched a couple of episodes of something on HGTV, which is not really based in any form of reality. If you ever notice, they can redo an entire kitchen in a week and well under budget, and there's never any cost overruns, and nobody ever gets sick, and every supply is available to them, and all of these things. Or you show 3 houses and they make a decision on the 3 houses, which one you're going to get. None of this based in reality. So I think the biggest misconception is that we as realtors, all we do is stick a sign on the ground and collect a check. There's nothing further from the truth. I work my tail off for my clients. If you don't believe me, just ask my wife. She'll tell you. We don't work banker's hours. I do have cutoffs, but when I'm in contract negotiations, that's not a 9 to 5. Not at all. I mean, I work tirelessly, and if I looked at the hours that I put in per transaction, they're actually quite high. And it takes a lot. Amber, 1,000,001 things can kill a deal, even with 2 experienced realtors on either side of the table. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen. And a good realtor is going to be able to circumnavigate those choppy waters. And when they're dealing with another good realtor, both of us are going to be able to get that deal done, being that we're open, that we're able to shuck and jive and pivot, because no 2 deals are exactly the same. And what makes a realtor really good at what they do is not when it's a lay down, when it's, they have an 800 credit score and it's 20% down and they've got $1 million in the bank and they saw 3 houses and they made a choice. Those are great, but they're unicorns. Typically that just doesn't, even pre-COVID, those are unicorns. They can occur. I've had them a couple of times, yes, but often it takes a lot more. So I think there's a misconception is that once you get your real estate license, you're just rolling in the dough, that you're just, you have to do no work and it's just easy peasy. No, I how many hats I wear? Let's see. I'm a realtor. I'm a hostage negotiator. I'm a therapist. I'm a marriage counselor. I'm a house cleaner. I'm all these things and more. And I'm happy about it. I'm not complaining per se, but people don't realize until they actually do this job what it entails. And that's the reason why, at least in Pennsylvania, I believe the number is something to the effect that most people, about 80-something% of the people, will leave the industry within the first 18 months of getting their license, because they feel that, I own a home and I watch HGTV and it's like a lot of fun. We're just going to take a look at houses. And no, there's a lot of grit. There's a lot of grind to what we do. There's a lot of things that don't necessarily go our way. Sometimes you deal with unpleasant circumstances or unpleasant people. There's 1,000,001 things that can happen that you really need to be able to know what you're doing. And I think the more successful the agent is, the more that has been through a lot of adversity. A good, successful agent probably has a lot of battle scars attributed to them. And we work hard. And we deserve and earn every dollar that we get. There's a misconception is that, can you give me back this, or, rebate this, or give me back that. And there are agents that will do that. They'll, cut their commissions down or do whatever. But no one else ever asks that of any other industry. And I find that kind of like hilarious. Would you ask your doctor to take less money to do the same job? Would you ask your lawyer to do that? Would you ask almost any other profession to do that? And many probably would never ask that question, but it's asked often of us. And you don't realize how much work, I don't think the average person realizes how much work and how much effort goes into getting to the settlement table. And often, we're not going to communicate to our client all the stuff that goes on to get the deal done. I've saved deals at the last minute that my client didn't know what I had to do to get it done, but I got it done. All they know is that they got keys or they got a check. but I did what I had to do. And when you hire me, or you hire any good realtor, he or she is going to do their level best to get to that settlement table. Ultimately, that's that's the goal. And I told my clients all the time, it says, your goals are my goals. I don't win until you do. Now, unless what you want to do is illegal, immoral, or unethical, I'm not going to follow you there. But other than that, if it's not any one of those three, your goals are mine. And I don't stop until those goals are met. That's my job. You hire me to get your goals and dreams realized.
Sounds like you're a pretty good agent. You know, I could definitely see some people looking to hire you as an agent. You really go to bat. You know, what would you say is the best way people wanted to contact you if, you know, they wanted to reach out and see about getting you to help them, you know, buy or sell their home?
Well, thank you for asking that. So I'm Victor Velez with Coldwell Banker Realty out of Exton, Pennsylvania. Most of the people that I serve is about within an hour of my office. So Chester County, Montgomery County, Delaware County, even Berks County. If you want to be able to contact me, my email is vvelez, so that's VVELEZ, vvelez at CB for Coldwell Banker Realty.com. So vvelez at CBRealty.com. My phone number is 484-410-7025. Again, 484-410-7025. And I would encourage anyone to check me out. I have 46 5-star Zillow reviews. So those are for people that absolutely wanted to be able to make sure that the world knew, because I suspect people are going to want to check me out. And I have no problem with that. I also have 5-star Zillow reviews on Google. Check me out. I work with a phenomenal brokerage. I love Coldwell Banker Realty. They are, in my view, the best in the business. I work with a group of colleagues and team and admin that are the best at what they do. I thoroughly enjoy helping my clients get to the settlement table with either keys or a check. It's one of the things I feel I've been put on this earth to be able to do. And it's not just a transaction for me. I think you've already heard that. It really becomes, this is actually personal for me. So I would love the opportunity for anyone that is looking for help, even if you just, you're not sure what to do. You're not sure where things are. I will tell you right now, we are looking at, Chester County right now. As I said before, we've got probably about a month of inventory, which just means that your average days on market, it would take a month to sell out everything that we have in Chester County right now. We have about 3 times the amount of buyers than we do sellers. You really need somebody that has the experience of getting a deal done. I'm very good at being able to craft an offer that will get to the settlement table. I'm also very good at being able to discern what a good offer is on the sell side so that you can get the biggest return on your investment when you're listing with me. But also understand when you work with me that you're not getting someone that just thinks of you as a number. I really do care. And hopefully people will actually see it's evident when they start talking to me. So yes, vvelez at cbrealty.com or 484-410-7025. My website is victoryhomesales.com, victoryhomesales.com. My tagline is victory is at your doorstep.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, Victor. And it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. I appreciate you coming on with me.
I thank you so very much for the time. These were awesome questions. I certainly hope that your audience will be able to glean something that they could find useful to be able to circumnavigate the choppy waters of real estate in southeastern Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Victor, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Same to you. Thank you so very much.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye now.